Hello and welcome back to another episode with me, Jurassics. I hope you are well and doing good. It goes without saying, stick to the end of the episode to see everything. There may be something towards the end which makes sense for something that we've discussed at the start. If you like the video, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up and comment. It's really appreciated. Welcome to my new redstone world. Today we are going to be talking about minecart hoppers and minecart chests. So want to give you a few bits of information before we get onto the various loaders and unloaders. So hopefully you know this already, but we have the minecart hopper here and we have the minecart chest. They both work slightly differently. The minecart hopper is able to pull items out of a hopper above it very quickly, whereas a chest still pulls item at the same speed as a hopper. So if we look in here, we've got 5 stacks going into that chest, and in this one we have none. And if we flip this switch, this has got this hopper locked and this one, but actually I found a little bug that if you put items in a locked hopper, I'm not sure if this is intended, it will go straight through. So there we go, you can see that just drops straight through. So if we flick this switch, we'll see the items start pouring into there, and if we put in 5 stacks in here, we'll see we've got 2 redstone lamps behind. This one should be finishing about now. Oh, no, a bit longer. There we go. So in the time it took me to put 5 stacks, have a check of this, not even a stack has gone into this chest. So they have 2 sort of slightly different purposes. This works for speed. This is much more for quantity. So to get our item unloaders or loaders to work, we also need to understand how the comparator works. So I've got a few different things here to sort of explain it. So if you weren't aware, a redstone block, if you use a comparator to measure the strength of the redstone signal from a block, it will always be 15 long. So anytime you put a redstone block, it will go from 0 to 15. There's no sort of middle ground in that. So that can be really useful if you want to sort of use that to compare against what's in a minecart hopper or minecart chest. Basically saying if the cart's full, then this will cancel out and let it go. So that's one way to measure things. And if we look at a hopper on a detector rail that's being detected by the comparator, we can see that different amount of items will give a different signal strength. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, it can be a useful tool to sort of understand what strength is in there. So here 32 items will give a signal strength of 2, 64 would be or 1 stack would be a strength of 3, 1 stack plus 32 items would be a signal strength of 5, and so on and so forth. It's not a linear curve, so it sort of goes up at a sort of exponential rate to a certain extent. So there's no sort of like specific like every 32 items it goes up 1 strength. That's not how it works. So that's another way of reading it. So if you had 2 stacks in there, if we go here, there we go, it's reading a strength of 6 out of 15. So 2 stacks, 6 out of 15. Not quite. Another way we can do it is we can use a item frame. So if we this is at a strength of 1. Let me just take out all of these items from this chest. So at a signal strength of 1, this will still give out because there's nothing in the chest. So this comparator is looking at what's in this chest, which is on a detector rail. It's asking this comparator, right, you've got a signal strength of 1, I've got a signal strength of 0. We output a strength of 1. Whereas if we put into the chest 1 stack plus 60, we'll see it turns off, because in a minecart chest 1 stack plus 60 equals a strength of 1. A signal strength of 1 on our item frame will equal out, so it's 1 minus 1 equals 0. And this works all the way along up to a signal strength of 8, because an item frame only gives out 8 strength. However, if you replace this item with a minecart hopper, we would have to put in 24 items to take away that 1 strength. Hopefully that's making sense. So if we knock this up to strength of 4, we need 1 stack plus 52 in a minecart hopper. So 1 plus 52, you know, it's going to be slightly over. There we go, and it turns it off. There's always a little delay, so just be warned. But that, if you want to take a screenshot now, will give you the top one is a minecart hopper and the bottom one is a minecart chest. How many items you need to sort of zero out or equal the same strength on a item frame. So the first minecart loader that we're going to look at is this one. This is a very simple design. It's good if you haven't got too many items, and you've got to be conscious that the amount of items coming in is slower than the amount that a hopper can pass through. So if we put 16 items in here, we can see that this turns off this logic. So we've got a comparator going into the block. Because there's a power going into this block, the redstone torch is saying, oh, there's power, will turn off, which then depowers the redstone dust here, which then also depowers the repeater here. So if we take these out again, it turns on. If you look in the bottom left, and if you put it back in, it comes on again. So if we send this cart, it will come over, it will take out the items. Once those items have gone, it will say there's no more, turn or depower this block, which then in turn turns this torch off, which then powers everything, which then powers this powered rail. So when there's items in there, it then depowers because it doesn't want to send it away. So if we put some items or fill up the item hopper and put a few more in the chest up here, if we've got a minecart with a hopper in it and we send it over, this comparator is still reading this hopper. So although it's taking out the items, it needs to be empty. The problem is the minecart hopper will fill up, but there'll still be items in the item hopper above it. So this then won't start this system going. So that's why earlier when I was talking, I said you had to make sure that the items coming into this hopper is going to be less than the amount that the hopper can disperse, but also you can't have that hopper or any above it, because then this minecart will fill up and there'll be nowhere for the items to go, so then it will not signal to tell the minecart to leave. So this is very good if you've got, say, a sugarcane farm, or, well, depending how big your sugarcane farm is, or a small farm that's producing maybe only 3 stacks in a run. So by the time that the minecart goes and comes back, there's only sort of a limited amount, no more than the amount that this hopper can take, which is 5 stacks. Also, another thing is with this minecart hopper, when it's going into a hopper, it's only going at hopper speed. So you have to be very conscious. If you're going to use this, this may fill up, and if it backs up too far, then this will break the system and the minecart will never leave. It will just be sat here, waiting for this hopper to empty out. And this is a pretty simple design. I'm not going to build it for you, but you've got the block here with a powered rail going into it, the hopper 1 block above. You've got then this block here which has the repeater behind it and a redstone dust. Comparator going that way into a block with a torch on the end, and that will just sort of, it's a simple logic. When this is empty, power up and let the cart go, but if it never empties, it will never depart. So for our second design, it's essentially the same design as the first one. It just has a slightly different design on this end. So again, simple. We've got the comparator coming out of the hopper into a stone brick with a torch on top. So if there's items in here, it powers the stone brick and then turns off the torch. The torch works as opposite in this scenario. So if that's powered, this will be off. If there's nothing powering it, the torch will be on. And then we have a slab, must be a slab, otherwise it will lock this hopper here. You've got 2 bits of redstone dust, which powers this block, which then spits an item into the hopper. So this is a sort of back and forth system. So if we have it unpowered, the redstone will, or as it unpowers, it spits it into there, which then pulses the comparator here, which powers this block, which in turn powers the powered rail. So if we put that in, it will depower everything. We send the minecart over, it collects all of that, and there we go. It happened pretty quick. So let's do that again, so I'm not moving. So if we follow it over, comes over, we'll see this pulse, there you go. And that's because as this is powered on, it pushes the item into the hopper, that signals that, and because of this slab, it's not locking this hopper. So the item then just goes, oh, I've got an out, I've got a way to get out of this hopper, so I'll go back into the dropper. And it must be a dropper. If you have a dispenser, it will just spit the item somewhere and it just won't work. So again, has its value, has its uses, but isn't a smart system, so to speak. So this next design is a good one for if you only want your minecart to come when it reaches a certain level of fullness. This one is toggable, but it's very easy to switch it over to where the minecart is full. So in this design, we're using a piston just to hold the minecart, so we can read the information from the minecart but also fill it up at the same time. So if we put some items in here and we go around here, we've got our item frame, which we discussed earlier in the episode or in the tutorial. So if we say, right, we want it to go here, so this will be a certain amount of items. this is only reading what's in the minecart. So if we send it over, it'll come up, it'll fill up very quickly, and once it gets to the amount that it wants to send, so just over a stack, so stack and 11 by the looks of it, it will release the minecart to come over here and unload, or unload wherever you want. So this will be very useful if you just want it to go, right, I only want the minecart to come to me, or to come and unload when it's got, say, half full, or roughly half full, or 3/4 full, say. Or if you only want it to come when it has filled up completely, you can just put a redstone block. So if we then get this minecart to come back, so we'll put a couple up there, and then we'll fill this up. If we send this over, it will fill up the minecart completely. So as it's filling up, the comparator is checking it, and the full power of the redstone block is saying, right, only go if you're full. So we should see it. There we go. It departs and off it goes because it's now got full. There's still items in this hopper, so this is very good if you only want it to go when it's got a certain amount of items in this hopper, or it's got a full inventory full. And this will work with a minecart with a chest as well. It's not just a hopper, so obviously if you're using a chest, it will fill up slower, but you can fit more in there. So if you've got, say, a kelp farm or something like that that's got a high output, yes, it might be slower, but as long as you can get more in than is coming, or more into your minecart chest than is coming in, then that works really well. And it's quite a simple build, so let me get the blocks and I'll show you how this goes together. Right, so to build it, we want to do is have our incoming track. So we'll put this is the incoming, and then the first rail you want to put is the detector rail, and then here we want to come up one, put a powered rail there and one up there, so we get this angle. And then what we can do is take that one away, because we don't want the minecart continuing to go up, we just want it to get stuck or come up here and then get stuck. So then what we'll go from there is we will put a block there, and this is to read the detector, to read what's going on internally within the minecart. And then we want to put a block on the front of the comparator, which will then read what's there. Sorry, we'll provide the redstone power into that block, which will then either not power the block, which will leave the redstone torch illuminated and powered, or it will power the block, which will then depower that redstone torch. And then we'll put a piston in front of it, so then that will just, if that's powered, that will push the piston out, which will then block the minecart from going past. Then on top here you want your input, so you can have it pretty much coming from most directions. What you want to be careful is with your redstone torch, you're not sort of running that past it, because that will just lock that hopper and stop it going. So I think that will be okay in the next one, but especially next to the torch, you're going to have some issues there. So just stay away from the torch. So maybe, in most scenarios you're coming from the top and it's just coming straight into your minecart from above. Then what we need to do is read or compare something to this comparator, which is measuring the internal of that minecart hopper or chest. So if we put another one there, that will input or output the same power as whatever you've got here. So if it's a redstone block, that's saying you need to have full power, so a full load in your minecart mine chest to then depower this torch. If you want to use a item frame, you can. We'll just get that. I like to use an arrow because it points. It's quite handy to just see which direction. So when you first put it in, that's power 1 or power 0, and then that's half. There's 8 points on the item frame, so you can sort of decide how much or how full you want your item chest or minecart chest or minecart hopper. So that's it. That's the build. Oh, just put that there to stop the minecart going any further, but that's it. That's how to put that one together. Quite an easy one to do. So these last two designs for our minecart loader work effectively the same way. This one just means that the minecart has to be full up before it departs, whereas this is toggable. Like some of the earlier designs, we can say, right, we only want it roughly half full or just half full, or you know, we want it 75% full kind of thing. So both can be very useful if you don't want to fill up too much, or you want it to be moving regularly, or whatever it is you decide. They're both mirrored, or they're mirrored. So this one is with the redstone on the right, this one's on the left, but it's very easy to swap out the sort of toggable part of the design, which is this bit, to a non-toggable but fills the items up. So that's sort of an overview. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this design. So we'll just talk about the redstone. So what we're doing here is, it's sort of I believe it's called an XOR gate. So we're looking at what items, or if there are items in the hopper. So this comparator is reading the items in the hopper. It's then powering this block, which in turn is powering the sticky piston, saying don't let the minecart leave because there's still items in the hopper, and we want to fill up the minecart. What the other part of this system does is it overrides that system if there's enough items in the minecart. So in this build we have the redstone block, so if the minecart is full, then it can leave the station. So minecart comes along, gets stuck on our detector rail and powered rail. The comparators or comparators are reading what's in the minecart, so that's putting out a power. So if that's full, it puts out a full power on these two, and this second comparator just duplicates what the first one is saying, so it doesn't lose signal strength. That in turn turns off this redstone torch, which then depowers. Then that also runs through here. So this redstone block will put out a power of 14. This will put in a power of 15, which will give 1, which will then power this block here, turning off the redstone torch and depowering the piston. So if we send the minecart off, we can then see it's now working because it's got items in. So as more items are going in, the power is getting more. This redstone dust is getting more and more power. See, it's going up, and there we go. It unpowers or powers this block, which then unpowers the redstone torch, unpowering that piston, and this one has already been unpowered because of these, and it will allow the block to then depart, even though we still have items in there. So if we send it back, take those items out, it will come here, it will take out all the items in the hopper, and then because there's no more items, it then departs the station again. So let's sort of see that again. So we've only got 2 stacks in there, so send the minecart, right, filling up. Once those items or the hopper is empty under the chest, it will let it go because there's no more items in that hopper. So hopefully that makes sense. It does work, it is all logical, but it can take a bit of time to get your head around it. For this one, it's basically doing the same thing, but we have this toggable system in place. So even if we put it at full power, so the arrow is to 12 o'clock, it won't take all of these items. So I think what I can do is I'll just power this hopper so it then locks it. So we'll send the cart to go and collect some items, and then it will say, right, you've got, we'll see in a moment how many, but you've got X amount, you can now leave. So we have 3 stacks. I don't think any should have even gone into the hopper. So when you've got 3 stacks of power, or 3 stacks at full power, you can depart. That will change slightly with or if you use a minecart chest, that will obviously put in a relative amount to it. So that will be maybe 13 stacks instead of the 2 we had here. But the build is exactly the same. The only thing we're doing is we've got, instead of the redstone block here and a redstone dust here, we've got 2 comparators here, and then we have the sort of what it's reading from on the back here. Okay, so we'll have our minecart rail track coming in. So this is our in, and then we'll have a detector rail, a powered rail on there, and then same as before, we want the power rail coming up, but then we can destroy the one on the top so that we've got this track system. And then again, we want to put the block up there so that the minecart can't just disappear or shoot off or anything like that. So then off of our detector rail, we want to put 2 blocks with 2 comparators or comparators on there. I'm going to get stick for that in the comments, I'm sure. A redstone a stone block with a torch on top, and then against that torch from the direction of the detector rail, we'll put a sticky piston and a fence post. Has to be a sticky piston, and a fence post will just hold the minecart in the right place. Then from this block with the torch on, we'll come out to, and we want a redstone dust, a comparator, and then we'll come over here and we want something for the comparator to compare against from the side. So we'll put the redstone dust there and the redstone block there. Now, where does that go? Well, we want to put a block in the front here with a torch on top, and then next to this torch you want another sticky piston. So we'll just, if you put it against the side of the torch, that will go there, and then we have a block there. So that's sort of the main detector for the minecart, but we also need to do the one for the hopper. So we'll put a block next to the redstone block with a comparator, and then we just need a hopper going into the top of the cart, so that would go there, and then again, you know, come from the top or something like that. Give yourself a bit of space. That is the design. It's very easy, very compact, and if you want to change it so it's toggleable, you just take out the redstone block here and that redstone dust, put in 2 comparators, and then we need an item frame, which is down there, and the arrow, and then that can just go there, and there we go. That is your smart minecart loader system. So the minecart unloaders, we've got 2 designs. You can see 3 here, but it's actually only 2. This one here and this one are the same. I just wanted to show you what 1 tileable looked like and then what 3 tileable look like. This one on the ends can also be done as a single, but I would definitely say it's much better as sort of a tileable, so one next to the other. This one with first design isn't quite as good, but it does work. So how this works is the items in the minecart come along, gets to this powered rail. The items, as the minecart's coming in, the items start going into the hopper. So by the time it gets to the block to stop and then go back out, this comparator is reading items in the hopper. There's something in the hopper. Don't know what it is, but there's something there, which then powers this block, which then unpowers the torch, which unpowers this block, which then unpowers this, and yada yada yada. So in total, this all gets unpowered from this, from the torch onwards. So then the minecart can stop there, unload all its items, and then once that hopper is empty, the minecart will then go again because the comparator is unpowered, and then that stops powering this block, which then the redstone torch turns on and everything powers up again. So if we put in, say, 10 items, we'll power this, comes along, stops, unloads, and then repowers and sends it off. So you can see, even as it hadn't built up too much momentum, the minecart stopped a bit early, but that's not a problem. And we've got, well, there must have been some blocks in there before, but it will send it back on its way. And this is tileable. It does work. It's not amazing, but it's good for your basic jobs. And again, if you want multiple coming in and you don't want to have a big station for unloading, you can use this. The one drawback is if we've got the hoppers pointing into this chest and you've got a minecart that's full unloading into this one, but only one item in this minecart, say, this one won't leave until this is empty because there's still items going through the hoppers. So yeah, it's still saying, yep, there's still items in the hopper, even though they're coming from this third one, not the second one. It's still powering it. So if we say put 32 in that one, 16 in that one, and 8 in the first one, you'll hopefully see what I mean. We'll send them off at the same time, and once this is empty, it won't depart because there's still items coming from the third one. So as soon as that third one has emptied, that will be the first to depart, then this one, because there will be additional items in the hopper. and then this one will depower once those items. So it does have a drawback, but if you don't have mega amounts of items coming in, it's not going to cause you too many problems. And it really is as simple as a comparator going into a block with a side torch, a block above the torch, a repeater on one tick, going into a block with a powered rail next to it. And you also don't want to have, like if I put a powered rail there, even if the minecart comes in and there's items in the hopper, it will continue to power this rail. So you need to make sure that that is just a normal rail, and then that way you won't have any problems. This last unloader design is very quick in terms of unloading the items. The bottleneck is actually underneath with the hoppers. So what we've got underneath these detector rails is a half slab with a minecart hopper inside that block, and then hoppers underneath. So in terms of, we've got 3, 2, 1 stacks of items. The minecarts come along, hits the detector rail. That allows the gates to shut, so the comparator back here powers the block, turns off the redstone torch, which then unpowers that block, which turns on that torch, which powers this comparator, which then powers the block, unpowers the torch, and closes the gate. Wow, that's how that happens. But as the cart comes along, it starts unloading magically into the minecart hoppers below it, and then the minecart hoppers start putting into the hoppers below, or the hoppers start pulling the items from these hidden minecarts. It is very quick. It does work incredibly efficiently. So to see it's pulling it out very quickly, and it will depart at pretty much similar times because there's so many items being pulled out at any one time. The bottleneck is the hopper speed, so it will take time out. But if the minecarts are going some distance away to go to a farm to pull out the items, then that's not going to be too much of an issue. So first off, you want your hoppers. So if we're coming this direction, we'll put 3 in like that. You can make it any size you want. So if you wanted 24 or 36 or 64, this will work. But again, it's the hopper speed that is the real issue here. So we'll put a block here, put a temporary one there that can be any block in the end, same as that one, and put those like that. Then we'll have the input rails, so these will come out like so. And then what we want is, wrong block, some redstone rails coming in like so. So just get a few, put a couple of blocks there. That's what the minecarts will be going into. Just building up our rail system now. And then here again, put your rails in, and then what you want to do is grab your minecart, hopper minecart, there we go, put that in there, boosh, off, same again, there we go. We've got our 3 hopper minecarts on top of our hoppers, and then put in a temporary block there, a half slab. Actually, let's put the piston in first. So we'll put that there. We'll put a half slab, and then we just want to power the piston, so pushes it in. We'll put another half slab, same again, and then third time lucky, another half slab. So there we go, we've got our half slabs covering our minecarts. If you want to do more minecarts, you're going to have to be a bit smart about how you go about it. So if you put in 24, obviously a piston's not going to push 24 half slabs, so you'll just have to think about how you're going to do that. Then you want to grab a detector rail, put one above each, and then same as before, just put a rail up there so that you get that angled, that sloped minecart, sloped detector rail. So then afterwards, what you want to do is then put your some building bricks there with comparators behind it. Then that goes into another building block with a torch above it. Then you'll have another building block above that with torches. Forgot my own the way to build this. And then that goes into our blocks above our detector rail, or where our initial detector rail was. Then that has comparators on top. Then we get another block, put it in front of the comparator. You can just put it on that little bounding block, and then we'll put 3 torches here. And then you want a fence gate, so it could be any color or any type, and then that just goes below it, so there. So if you just click on that little box at the bottom, that will work like that. And there you go, that is the design. Very easy, very simple to put together. Does use a few more items, or a few bits of redstone, but again, depending on what you need it for, can be extremely useful to do so. So hopefully that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 designs, 5 loaders and 2 unloaders that you can use in your Minecraft worlds to get your items transported around. So that's it for this tutorial. I would like to thank NanoRex, Prowl8413 and Animus J. Some of these designs are from them, some have been tweaked, so I will put their links to the videos that I used in the description. Hopefully my explanations made sense as well, but join me next time on my next how-to, or come and join me on Jurassic's World. Thank you very much, have a good day, and look forward to hearing your comments.